A lot of people from Latin America very rightly are very suspicious of the justice system, of all the players in the justice system, not just the government, but the lawyers, And so being an honest operator and an ethical operator is very fulfilling to me.
Welcome to the Tip the Skills podcast, where we discuss running and growing your law firm. I'm your host, Maria Monroy, president and co-founder of LawRank. Today, I am joined by Javier Gutierrez. We discussed grassroots marketing, really becoming a part of your community and how that can generate cases, and the need to be creative when you are doing grassroots marketing. So I know that one of the things we discussed is he sponsored the senior prom, and I'm not talking about seniors in high school. I hope that you guys enjoy this episode. Javier Gutierrez.
Yes, ma'am.
Did I pronounce that correctly?
That's probably the most beautiful pronunciation I've heard all day.
That makes me so happy. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. All right. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your firm, where you are, what you do, and then we'll go from there.
The Gutierrez Law Firm was founded by my father, Valdemar Gutierrez, in 1978. I was 1 year old.
I wasn't born.
You weren't born yet. I was 1 year old. My dad grew up in a small town called Benavides, Texas. It's in South Texas, close to Laredo, close to Corpus Christi.
That's funny because there are pharmacies in all of Mexico called Benavides.
Well, that's very interesting. My little town is Benavides. And sometimes when I look up the weather in Benavides, it wants to give me Benavides in Mexico.
Oh, is there a city in Mexico called Benavides too?
Yeah, there's probably all over the world.
I'm sure there's like a really good story behind this name.
Yeah, so Benavides was founded by somebody named Plácido Benavides. And that was...
So it's a last name.
It's a last name.
I didn't know
Exactly.
that.
Yes, ma'am. It's a last name. So my mom and dad are from Benavides.
Okay.
And it's a town of about 2,000 people.
Oh, wow.
And so my dad had
That's
a dream.
like the conference we're in.
I think there's probably more people at this conference than my hometown.
The Benavides.
And so my dad became a teacher and was really inspired by the civil rights movement and young Latinos that were getting involved in law for social change. And so he thought, well, I can do that. And he went to law school in Houston, Texas Southern University, and him and my mom packed up. And my mom worked for Exxon in the property tax division in downtown Houston while she supported my dad going to law school. And so as soon as he graduated from law school, he said, I'm getting out of Houston. I want to go back to my little pueblito.
Oh.
And he opened an office in Alice, Texas. You ever heard of Alice, Texas?
Not till earlier today when I saw your badge.
Yeah. So Alice, Texas is where my dad started his firm. And Alice is much bigger than Benavides, but still very small. Probably 20, 25,000 people. But from there weren't really any, back then when my dad started, no one was trying cases. No one was fighting those big fights that, we hear about now all the time. It was a very different time. And so I grew up in a household where around the dinner table, dad would come home and tell us about his latest case, and he was most passionate about workplace injury cases. And the reason is that the clientele were the exact same people that we grew up with as our tios and tias, uncles, and, aunts, like just hardworking people where they didn't have education. And so if they got hurt on the job and couldn't provide for themselves, that's economically devastating, right? If I was injured, I could still be a lawyer. I could still sit at a computer and type. So he was passionate about that. And that inspired me to be an attorney as well. And so that's a little bit of my dad's background. And so he started the firm in 1978. I have an older sister. She's a teacher, but I went to law school. I started at a defense firm and I just couldn't do it. So although I learned a lot there, then I joined my dad in 2007 and I took over the firm in 2011. So that's a little bit of background about the firm.
Got it. And who runs the firm now? You and?
I run the firm now. I do not consider myself the boss of my dad. That's for sure, because he still works for us.
He's still working?
He still works for us. He just celebrated 45 years as an attorney.
Wow, that's amazing.
So
we should have had him on.
No, he's a rock star. And so he divides his time practicing law, raising cattle, and running a hunting ranch. And so he's passionate about all those things. And he still lives in Benavides.
Really?
But in 2016, my wife and I relocated from South Texas to Houston, and we opened a Houston branch of our firm, which is, everything kind of comes full circle, right? Because he started his legal career in Houston.
Yeah.
And now we have an office in Houston. And so that's been challenging. And I think, for your listeners and viewers, I have a lot of insights on opening a family law firm in a new location where you don't really know anybody and starting from scratch.
So let's talk about that for a minute. What was that like?
A lot of people told me I was crazy for moving to Houston.
Really?
The Gutierrez name has been well known in South Texas, like I said, for 45 years. And so when my wife and I decided that we wanted to relocate to Houston, a lot of people were like, well, you're leaving a good thing. But I believed in myself, and I had my wife's support, and, family support is huge. And I tell people, not everybody has a loving, caring, supportive family. And sometimes our clients don't have that. Sometimes our clients don't have that because their loved ones maybe passed away in an accident or something like that. But I feel like God has blessed my family with a lot of love and a lot of support. My parents, my wife, my in-laws, my children. And so with that, we opened up our office in Houston, and we found some creative ways to get clients. And one of the most creative ways that we did was we linked up with a group of passionate Houston Texans football tailgaters.
How did that happen?
Well, I learned from a friend that there was this group of tailgaters from a very specific kind of Hispanic community within Houston, because as I started to learn, big cities are often, in my opinion, a combination of many small communities.
Okay.
And within those communities, there are what I call community leaders. I'm not talking about mayors. I'm not talking about councilmen or anything like that. I'm talking about people in the community that people look to for advice. And so sometimes it's a wise, African-American grandmother, who knows everybody, or maybe a church pastor. Well, in our case, the guy that put on the tailgate was considered a community leader. Why? Well, by day, he, worked 9-to-5 job, but at night, coached Little League. He organized the tailgaters. Whenever someone was ill in their social group, he would rally to, sell plates of food to make money for them or support someone who was hurt. So I got to know that guy, and I started to support the tailgaters, and I bought them a TV. And so have you ever been NFL tailgating before?
No.
Okay, so NFL tailgaters are crazy. They are passionate. Okay, they're passionate about football and barbecue and having a good time, right? So I donated a TV, and they put a big old banner out, and I started getting cases from that.
Really?
Right. Yeah. And so most of our cases were still in South Texas, okay? Because we've been there for so long and we've represented people for many years. But in Houston, it started with the tailgaters and then the friends of the tailgaters. And then I started sponsoring the Little League team of some of the tailgaters' kids. And just like that, you start making these grassroots connections because, as you know, investing in digital marketing in Houston, of all places, it's probably one of the, you tell me, is
top 5 in the country.
Top 5, right? So what are the 5 biggest markets?
I'm interviewing you. No, just kidding. I would argue Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, New York City.
Yeah.
I don't know what the next one would be.
So I guess my advice would be, it feels like it's going to be impossible to grow a practice in a city that big with so many advertisers, but you find like-minded people. Another thing we did is I started to sponsor what was called the senior prom. Now, this wasn't the senior prom like maybe you or I went to when we were in high school.
It was for seniors?
It was for senior citizens.
Oh, that's so cute.
And so some of these seniors...
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Would you attend?
I would attend, and I was the judge.
Oh no.
Of the home.
Do you have a video of this?
There's video and there's photos, so I'll send them to you.
Send them to me and we'll put them in when we make our reels to promote it.
Yeah.
We'll splice them into it.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely send you some pictures. And so what was really cool about that is that these senior community centers were elderly folks, Hispanic, Black, white, all people from all over. And that's what I love about Houston, right? It's so diverse, just like Florida. But
Miami's not very diverse.
Well, some parts.
It's Latin America.
I gotcha.
There are no Americans in Miami.
No Americans.
Yeah.
So what was really heartwarming is that for some of these people at this senior prom, they never went to a prom before.
Oh, I've never gone to a prom.
We'll see you maybe when you're a senior, we'll invite you. But
Guys, who wants to sponsor my
who wants
senior
to
prom?
sponsor the senior prom?
I would rather have it now. Can we just have a prom? I chose not to go.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you were too cool for school.
I was too cool for school.
I had a feeling you were one
Yeah.
of those that was too cool for school. So
yeah, no, there's a backstory to it, but we won't go
that's a
that
different
deep.
podcast, right?
Yeah, that's an after hours podcast. Those don't get released. So
So, doing things like that. And one of the things that we did at the senior prom is we did the baseball ticket giveaway. And so we would give away Astros tickets. And so the people we gave Astros tickets to won like, a raffle or a drawing at the senior prom. And I got the most heartwarming thank you notes from people's, elderly people's children that said, thank you so much for supporting, my mom. She'd never been to an Astros game, and so like as lawyers, we have to remember that what we do can really touch people, like in a way that you can never imagine, like we might take it for granted, like, oh yeah, I go to a lot of Astros games or I go to a lot of football games. And some people have never been, some people could never go. So some of those little giveaways helped us grow in Houston. And then as we grew a little bit more, we started doing some lead generation with Walker Advertising. I was telling you about that earlier, which targeted Spanish speakers in Houston.
So was it Los Defensores?
Los Defensores, exactly. Yeah. And so what I really like about that is the people that we have met through that, even though it's not that personal touch initially in the marketing, it's very, digital. But when you get to know these people, their stories are incredible, and like Florida, the Latino community is very diverse. In South Texas, most of our clients were Hispanic of Mexican-American descent. But in Houston, it's El Salvador, it's South Americans, it's people from all over. And so that's been very, very, I think one of the things I like the most about being an attorney is working towards earning the trust of people who have never had an attorney before, because you have to earn that trust.
Absolutely.
And so I think it might sound simplistic, but I think that a lot of people from Latin America very rightly are very suspicious of the justice system, of all the players in the justice system, not just the government, but the lawyers, And so being an honest operator and an ethical operator, attorney in the system is very fulfilling to me, because I see the appreciation, when I can deliver a good result on a case for someone who maybe, doesn't really trust the legal system, but then if I can help them trust the legal system by being a good person, then I get a lot out of that.
That's awesome. Now, so how does that work? You have an office in Alice, but you're not there.
Right.
Is one of your siblings there?
Yes. So my sister Anna is an attorney as well, and she mans the Alice office with my dad, Valdemar.
Okay.
And then in Houston, my strong right hand is my little brother, David, and he's an attorney as well.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about that. What's it like working with your family? Because a lot of people would say that you shouldn't do that.
Working with family is extremely rewarding and can also be challenging, because in a business, I think in any business, when someone says, well, it's business, it's not personal. Well, like you own your own business.
Yes.
And it's personal when something doesn't work out. You
Absolutely.
can't,
it's my baby. My
baby.
business is my fourth baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so you would be fooling yourself if you could think, well, it's just business, so I can treat, my coworkers, my siblings, my dad as just like anybody else, but it's personal, and it's personal for them too. And so maintaining respect and working off each other's strengths is really important, because everybody has a different strength, I think. I think some people, I'm very analytical. My sister Anna, we call her the client whisperer. If a client is upset or confused or nervous, Anna knows how to calm our clients down. She's an amazing listener. And so that's her strength. My dad is a bulldog. My dad is a fighter, but he's also very intuitive. He has so much advice, so much experience that he can guide us. And so we all bring something different to the table. My younger brother David, is an amateur playwright. So he writes plays, and he's written stories before and short stories, and he's produced plays, and he's probably going to one day make it big and leave me without an associate in Houston. But his strength is in creativity.
Mm-hmm.
And creativity in the law, just like in business, goes a long way. You have to think outside the box. And so I enjoy being like CEO and having this wonderful team. My sister is really excellent at marketing. We check out our Instagram. She's a great storyteller. She can convey very complicated legal things in plain English. And so I get a lot out of working with family. And, I think every family's different. You have to definitely, think twice. So for example, I have a younger sister who's also an attorney. Her name is Kayla. She lives in San Antonio and she does her own thing. And that's good for us as a family, but we also do work on some cases together.
Does she also do PI?
She also does PI,
oh,
but she also has done some immigrant defense. So in Texas, a lot of immigrants are getting arrested for crossing the border and getting pulled into the state court criminal system. But she does some of that work too. And so it's very fulfilling to see your siblings excel in the law and also being able to have them as partners. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I love what you did with the Grassroots, because I think so many firms think that that's like a thing of the past, when I don't think it is at all. Like, that's where you should first start, because it costs you time and maybe a little bit of money, like the TV or, the sponsorships, but it's not the most expensive thing. And like, you get to build these connections and you're going to get the best cases that way. And then hopefully those clients turn into, they refer you cases, and then it just kind of like, it's a domino effect. And I definitely think it's a really big piece of the puzzle is Grassroots.
I agree. And I think together with Grassroots, so let's think about, the marketing mix. And so if you're doing a lot of stuff digitally, you need to have good Google reviews, right?
Yes. I love Google reviews.
Google reviews are really important. And so someone told us a while back, don't just ask your clients for Google reviews. Also ask like your vendors. Also ask like colleagues to give you legitimate feedback on your Google. And so some of the people that we work with in the community have given us a review. And so if you're just starting out, it might feel daunting, like, wow, my competitors have 200 Google reviews or 400 Google reviews. Well, you know what? You got to start somewhere.
You do.
And so that's also something else I think that's really important, because, we're here at Mass Torts Made Perfect. It's a marketing conference. But at the end of the day, the most important marketing tool is doing a good job, because past clients are going to inspire new clients, and past clients are going to give you Google reviews that's going to supercharge your SEO efforts, your LSA efforts, your everything. All your efforts are going to they all work together, and Grassroots is part of it. Getting to know people is important. Getting out of your comfort zone is important. So I'm not a big like happy hour kind of person. I'm more like, after work, I want to go home and be with my family. But I did love going to the senior prom.
Yeah.
And I love going to, the Halloween fundraiser that the PTA did at some of the elementary schools. And so I enjoyed that as well. And so I think if you do like the happy hours and all that, hey, go for it. But if you don't like that, there is somewhere where you can possibly be the only attorney in the room and be able to tell potential clients about who you are and that you're a nice, regular person.
I think that's really powerful. Now, you mentioned that we're at MTMP.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a single event firm, why are you at MTMP? Because it's definitely not for the happy hours.
It's definitely not for the happy hours. Yeah. And so that's funny, because there is a big party aspect to this conference.
No.
But yes. No. You're more like me. You're not into the happy hours. You're going to plead the fifth on that one?
No. It depends. So like,
yeah.
I haven't partied or really drank this conference just because I'm so busy.
Yeah.
And I love my sleep. I'm just like such a fan of sleep. So it's hard for me to balance. But tonight, I will be at the happy hours.
Right on. So we're interested in mass torts because it's, I think, a natural extension of what we already do. And so, if we represent over the years thousands of people that have been involved in different types of situations, those same people and their families are in the environment that we're all in, where, we're exposed to dangerous drugs, dangerous devices, contaminated water. And so I feel like we have a duty to know about that area of law and know which attorneys to partner with. We definitely aren't in a position yet to take on a tort all by ourselves, but making strategic relationships with Levin Papantonio, for example, they've encouraged us, hey, tell your clients that you can work on these cases now that you have us as a partner.
And how are you doing that? Are you sending a newsletter, or what's the process like for that?
So we're going to rely on MailChimp at first. And so we're going to do a MailChimp, a digital newsletter, although I want your thoughts, because, you've been doing this for a long time as well. What do you think works better? Because we're kind of starting with this, traditional mail outs, MailChimp, email blasts, social media. What do you recommend?
I'm not the expert on this by any means, but I think newsletters are great because you have all of your, and that is like an email blast. In my opinion, they're one and the same. But I like newsletters for two reasons. So number one, regardless if there's a new tort or not, or whether you're talking about torts or not, you want to be top of mind to your past clients, right? The way that Jen Gore, I don't know if you know Jen, does her newsletter, I love that because they put a ton of pictures. It's very like personable.
Atlanta?
Yes.
Yeah, she's great on social media.
Yes. So she's one of my best friends, and I'm subscribed to her. I love her newsletter, right? So you're going to be top of mind that way, right? And whether they need you for a tort or another accident, like you want to be top of mind. Now, I wouldn't send that too often. I would say like once a month is good. But then anytime you can handle, there are certain torts around, I would definitely email and say, hey, if you've been, injured in whatever, whatever it is, right? Contact us. And then you sign up the case, you refer it to the right firm, right? And then, I think that's like such an easy way an inexpensive way to pick up more clients. In terms of social media, I do think there's an overlap there because with social media, and Jen's the one that taught me this, she said, look, Maria, when we first started doing social media videos, we noticed that our referrals from past clients went up. So it's another way to stay top of mind with past clients. But even if it's not past clients, maybe it's people in your community. Like if you're doing, for you specifically, that you are doing the grassroots, you want those people to follow your social media. And I wouldn't make every post about the law. I would make it about other things that you're passionate about. But when you know that there is this tort and you have that partnership in place, I would totally make a few videos explaining, what's happened or when somebody might have a potential case, encourage them to contact you. This is like the low-hanging fruit that I definitely, another thing is, so if you're doing SEO, you want your SEO agency to put up a page on each of the torts, right? So our clients, and we don't even charge them extra, they will literally be like, hey, I need a page for Camp Lejeune, right? When Camp Lejeune was all the rage, we had multiple firms reach out and say, because we don't want them to write it because it won't do anything for them. So like, we're like, no, it's okay. We'll write
Let the pros do it.
Yeah. So I think that's another way. Mailing things, I cannot comment on that because I just personally don't know. But I do wonder if like the things that used to work, like are almost like back in style because it's like not what everyone expects, right? Like you don't, I remember when I was like a teen, I would like sign up for catalogs, right? Like we don't do that anymore. You can just go online and look it up. So I think it can be a little disruptive to send something in the mail and maybe think of like a cool thing to send.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's some great advice. And so we're doing the social media thing for sure. And my social media manager, Sergio Silvera, he works for my firm. He said, we have to post things several times because, they don't always get views. And so we're learning through that. Definitely, hopefully we'll be back at MTMP next year. I'll be able to report how our mass torts efforts are going. But I think the newsletter is really important. Something that we do, and I'll tell you about something fun that we do. So do you know what Tejano music is?
The what?
Tejano music. Have you ever heard of that? Have you ever heard of Selena?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so her genre of music is referred to as Tejano music, which is
Tejano.
Tejano.
Oh, yes, I do know what Tejano music is.
So, fun fact, when I was in high school, I was in a Tejano band.
Really?
And I recorded Tejano albums as a keyboard player and a guitar player. Nobody famous, but we opened for a lot of famous people like La Mafia, Los
Really?
Palominos. Yeah. And so I'm a passionate musician. I play the guitar. And so we did a program last year on our social media called Tejano Tuesday, where I would play a few minutes of a song instrumental on the guitar or the keyboard. And then the commenters would try to guess the name of the song, kind of like a Name That Tune. And then we'd pick one of the correct answers to receive a gift card.
That's really cool.
And so definitely check out our Instagram for Tejano Tuesday. Yeah, we had some fun with it.
Yeah, so we'll get your Instagram handle and we'll link it in the show notes too, in case anybody wants to look at it. The only thing I will say is I would make sure that your social media person is following people in your community, because when you go and you follow them, especially if they know you, they're going to follow you back. Or what you can also do is
that's good advice. Yeah.
Or even like local, like the kids little league is probably not ideal, but I don't know what other like local businesses there are that if you go and see who's following them, you go and you follow them because you know that they're part of the community. So like in a market, Houston's really big, right? But in like a smaller market, like for your Alice location, I would definitely go and like to the local news channel and see who's following the local news channel and follow them, right? Hoping that they follow you back. Again, not an expert on social media. That's not something that we offer or anything like that. I mean, obviously we do it for ourselves, but that's definitely something I would do.
That's great advice. Yeah. So please check it out. Let me know what you think about Tejano Tuesday.
I will. I look forward to it. And thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for the opportunity. It's great to meet you.
You too. Thank you so much to Javier for everything he shared with us today. I would really appreciate it if you guys could leave a 5-star review. As a super quick reminder, don't forget that in Spotify, this is video and audio, and we also have a YouTube channel if you want to see the video component.